Friends, we are living through some very scary times. In the face of the fires roiling our world, we have to find our own fire. We have to be that fire. Truth and fire. That is what we need. And our next speaker embodies these twin imperatives with every word that she speaks and every choice that she makes. Please join me in welcoming Greta Thunberg. So you've been here for a little bit more than a week now. Do you have any observations to share after having been here for a little while about some of the differences?
You use a lot of air conditioning here. There's a lot of differences, and also in the way we talk about the climate crisis. Of course, here it's more like something you either believe in or not believe in. Yeah. And where I'm from, it's more like it's a fact.
So speaking of facts, one of the consistent messages that you've taken into all of these spaces and that I know you will be continuing to take is that you're not telling politicians what they should do, you're telling them that they should be listening to scientists. As a researcher and writer about climate change myself, I'm always struck that your speeches are so careful and could easily be footnoted with all of the best scientific reports. And so I'm wondering how you work with climate scientists, what your relationship is.
I have a very close relationship to a lot of climate scientists, and when I have made a speech like this is almost finished, I send a copy to, it could be one scientist, sometimes it's 5 or 6 scientists, and to just let them have a look and make sure everything is as it is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing. I mean, just this idea that you've been skipping school is so absurd to me, I mean, this is just an incredible advanced level education that you've given yourself on the fly and under so much scrutiny, because very, very quickly you've become really the most prominent voice of the climate movement, and that is a really heavy responsibility. I wanted to ask you about this other responsibility that you've taken on, which has to do with being very public from the beginning about being on the autism spectrum. That leads to a whole other level of responsibility, because you're probably also the most prominent person in the world right now who self-identifies as being on the autism spectrum, and that's really, really important to people who identify with it. So how have you navigated that? How have you decided to be so public? It's left you open to terrible attacks. How have you made these decisions?
I am different from everyone else, and it is thanks to my diagnosis, my Asperger's syndrome, and because without that I wouldn't have noticed this crisis. I remember, because everyone else, they saw the same thing, they saw the same pictures and films as I did, the destruction of nature and what was happening with the climate, but no one of them seemed to really, I didn't understand why their lives wasn't turned upside down like mine was. I can't, for example, understand that someone can say like, yeah, climate change is very important, and then not do anything about it. Because if you know how important it is, then you know that you also have to do something, that you also have responsibility to do something. And
thank you, Greta. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how we can support you, if there's any ways that we can support you with these disgusting trolls that go after you.
I mean, obviously, I can't do anything about it. Honestly, I think it's funny.
As well you should.
I don't know how many laugh attacks I have had just watching these tweets. And sometimes I have like a competition with myself to find the most absurd conspiracy theory. Because they go after like things like my personality and how I am, how I look, how I behave, and I mean that is just a sign that you are winning, and that they don't have any more arguments to go after you. And because, I mean, I'm not the enemy, at least I hope not, but many people seem to think that. But they cannot argue against, because I'm only saying what the science is saying, and you can't argue against physics. If there's a fire there, and I say, it's a fire there, we need to put it out. Yes, we need to put that fire out. It's like the most reasonable reaction would be that you look at the fire and say like, oh, we need to put it out. Yeah. But now they seem to be like, they look at the fire and they look at me like, what are you wearing? And
there is this debate going on within the Democratic Party as it tries to decide who to run against Donald Trump, about whether or not to have a response to climate change that is very bold, that spends a lot of money to do these transformations, and this counter response, which is it's too much, it's too big, it's too expensive. Do you have anything to add to these debates about just, in particular, the idea that it's kind of too expensive to deal with climate change?
I mean, the money is there. If we can save the banks, then we can save the world. I mean, if there's something we are not lacking in this world, it's money. And I mean, of course, many people do lack money, but I mean, governments and these people in power, they do not lack money. And also we need to have the polluters to actually pay for the damage they have caused. So, I mean, to that argument, I would not even respond to that argument, because it has been said so many times that the money is there. What we lack now is political will and social will to do it. So to that I don't respond.
Yeah, fair enough. Greta, thank you so much for being here. We are so honored by your presence.